My friend, you are not here by chance. Something within you has drawn you to this moment, a whisper that says, there is more to me than I have known. You desire the union of love, the presence of one specific person, yet the secret lies not in chasing them in the outer world, but in awakening within the dream you already live. Tonight I will show you how to move from longing to fulfillment, from separation to union, by entering the sacred state where imagination and reality become one, the awakened dream state. What if your dream of love was not a fantasy, but a preview of what's already yours? What if the one you desire is already bound to you through imagination? Stay with me till the end, and you'll never see love or reality the same way again. When I speak of the awakened dream state, I do not speak of some distant or mystical condition reserved for the saints or the sages. I speak of the state you now occupy, even as you sit here listening to these words. You believe yourself awake because your eyes are open and the world seems solid. Yet I tell you, you are still dreaming. The only difference between your nightly dreams and this waking world is the persistence of the dream you choose to accept as real. Look carefully at the life you call your reality. Every face, every circumstance, every joy, and every pain, all are the outpicturing of what you have imagined yourself to be. You are living within the dream your own consciousness has woven. The awakened dream state is simply this: to know that you are dreaming. To know that the world around you is molded by your inner imaginal acts, and to consciously begin to shape it according to your desire. Most people live as sleepers, believing that what happens to them is caused by outer forces, by luck, by fate, by other people. But the one who is awake within the dream knows the truth. Everything seen without was first felt within. The outer world is the mirror, the reflection of an unseen reality, and that unseen reality is your imagination. When you awaken, you cease to react blindly to appearances and begin to command them through inner vision. You see, life is not happening to you, it is happening through you. Every event is the echo of an imaginal act you have forgotten performing. You might think, but I never imagined this, and yet search your mind. Have you not entertained the feeling of being rejected or the thought of being alone? Have you not repeated to yourself, even in passing, no one understands me, or they never truly love me? Those quiet assumptions, felt as real, took root in the fertile soil of your subconscious and are now blossoming before your eyes. To be in the awakened dream is to realize that there is no other cause but the state of consciousness in which you dwell. Everything you perceive is the outpicturing of a state, a mood, an assumption, a belief. Change the state and the world reshapes itself to mirror that new inner truth. The dream does not end, it transforms. You do know. Wake up by leaving the dream, you awaken within it, and from that moment you become the dream's master, not its victim. Imagine standing within a lucid dream at night. You know that the scenery, the people, the events are projections of your own mind. The instant you realize this, you can fly, you can summon, you can create at will, for the dream is yours. That is what it means to be in the awakened dream while awake. You realize that this three-dimensional world responds to your inner movements exactly as the dream responds to your thoughts when you sleep. So, how does one enter this awakened awareness? Not by effort, not by struggle, but by quiet recognition. It begins with a simple question: what am I feeling now? For your feeling is the secret. Your present emotion reveals the state in which you are dwelling. If you feel lack, the world must mirror lack. If you feel fullness, love, and possession, the world must bring you the evidence of that inner wealth. The awakened dreamer watches the current of emotion and gently redirects it, as a sculptor smooths the clay until the form pleases him. The awakened dream state is not escape from reality, it is mastery of it. It is realizing that imagination and reality are one continuous fabric, that thought is substance, and that feeling gives it form. When you truly grasp this, your attitude toward life changes entirely. You cease to beg for what you want, you assume it. You cease to plead with others, you see them as reflections of yourself and love them accordingly. You cease to fear the future, for you know it already exists as a present, imaginal act, awaiting expression. This state is not reserved for a chosen few. It is your natural birthright. Every time you vividly imagine and believe, you are touching the awakened dream. when you sit quietly and picture your specific person smiling at you, speaking to you with tenderness, and you feel the warmth of that scene as though it were unfolding now, you are in that sacred state. The outer world has no choice but to conform, for the awakened dreamer is the cause of all appearances. The secret is awareness. Awareness that your imagination is the only reality and that consciousness is the substance from which all things are made. When you live in that awareness, nothing can stand against you. You do not fight circumstances, you transcend them. You do not chase love, you generate it. You do not seek signs, you become the sign itself. The awakened dreamer walks through this world serene, knowing that everything he beholds is himself pushed out. And when you reach this understanding, not as theory, but as living experience, your life becomes a continuous miracle. Every encounter confirms your imagination. Every event bears witness to your inner vision. The world becomes pliant, friendly, obedient to your command. You will look upon the same world others see, yet for you it will be heaven, because you have awakened within the dream and discovered yourself as its creator. For within this dream, there is only one source, one infinite imagination expressing itself through countless forms. Everything you see, touch, and feel flows from that invisible creative center that lives in you. It is not out there somewhere, sitting in judgment, deciding what you may or may not have. It is the life within you, forever creating according to your inner acceptance of truth. You are not a fragment separated from it, you are its very expression. The thoughts you entertain, the emotions you nurse, the pictures you hold, these are the tools of creation through which the unseen becomes seen. When you understand this, you stop dividing the world into parts, God and man, creator and created, giver and receiver. You see that all these distinctions vanish in the light of awareness. The one who imagines and the one imagined are one. The love you seek, the person you long for, is not outside your being. They are already included within your consciousness, waiting only for recognition. You see, imagination is not a flight of fancy or a pleasant escape from reality. It is the womb of reality itself. The visible world is but the child of imagination. Every structure, every invention, every song, every love story began as an image, a feeling, an invisible vibration within someone's mind. The chair you sit on, the house you dwell in, the relationship you desire, all are born from the same source, the imaginal act accepted as fact. Think for a moment of how effortlessly you create in your nightly dreams. You conjure entire landscapes, people, and emotions without moving a muscle. No tool, no money, no assistance, just the power of thought clothed in feeling. The awakened dream state works in precisely the same way. Only now you bring deliberate intention into the act. You begin to know that what you imagine with conviction must appear, that the unseen source obeys the command of your inner vision. This source never denies you. It only mirrors the state you occupy. If you dwell in doubt, it brings you the echo of uncertainty. If you live in love, it surrounds you with the reflection of that love. It is impartial, impersonal, and infinitely obedient. The law of creation cannot fail because it is your own consciousness in operation. You do not beg it to act, you move it by assuming the feeling of your wish fulfilled. To manifest your specific person, therefore, you must not attempt to manipulate them in the outer world. You must turn within to the creative center that has always heard your every word, seen your every image, and felt your every emotion. There, in the sacred silence of imagination, you mold the relationship you desire. Picture it until it feels more real than the physical world. Hear their voice speaking to you words of affection. Feel their hand in yours, their eyes meeting yours with recognition. And as you dwell in that imaginal union, know that it is already accomplished, for imagination is creation. This is not a technique of wishful thinking, it is divine law. The outer world has no choice but to organize itself in harmony with your dominant feeling. You may think of it as magic, but it is only the natural rhythm of life, responding to the command of consciousness. The moment you feel yourself one with your desire, creation is complete, though the evidence may not yet be seen. The seed is sown, and in due season it will appear. Understand that this source does not measure your worthiness. It does not question whether you deserve love, happiness, or success. It simply gives form to the image impressed upon it. The limitation lies not in the power, but in your acceptance of it. When you claim, I am loved, I am chosen, I am desired, you are declaring yourself to be in harmony with that power. When you say, they don't love me, they have forgotten me, you are using the same power to create the opposite. It never stops creating it, only obeys the command. You give it through feeling. So let us no longer treat imagination as idle play. It is sacred, for it is the means by which the invisible becomes visible. The awakened dreamer reveres imagination as the divine instrument of creation. To misuse it by dwelling in fear or resentment is to plant thorns in the garden of your own life. To use it lovingly and wisely is to fill that garden with fragrance and light. When you begin to live from this understanding, you will find that every desire carries within it the power of fulfillment. You no longer wait for someone to bring love to you. You realize that love is already flowing through you, shaping itself as the person you desire. You no longer seek permission to be happy. You become happiness itself. You no longer question if your imagination is real. You see that it is the only reality, and the world merely echoes its song. In this realization, the struggle ends, separation dissolves, the outer and inner blend into one harmonious whole. And the moment you accept this truth, a creative source within you stirs, ready to bring forth in form the love and companionship your heart has already known in imagination. The one you call your specific person is not a stranger to your being. They are not separate from you, existing somewhere outside your sphere of influence. They live within the vast field of your consciousness, woven from the same fabric that composes your own soul. Every image, every thought, every feeling you hold about them defines how they appear and respond in your outer world. You have never met anyone who is not, in truth, a reflection of your inner state. When you look upon another, you are looking into the mirror of yourself. If you see indifference, it is because some corner of your heart still whispers unworthiness. If you feel distance, it is because you have imagined separation. The world, in its infinite gentleness, shows you not to punish but to awaken you. It reflects faithfully the belief you have accepted about yourself in relation to another. The moment you change that inner belief, the reflection must change. It has no will of its own. It cannot resist the image you project. You see, love is never lost. It cannot be taken, stolen, or destroyed. What we call losing love is only the shifting of consciousness from unity to division. When you assume the feeling of being unloved, the mirror world must echo it. When you return to the awareness that you are the source of love itself, the echo changes instantly. Your specific person, whether near or far, conscious of you or not, must act in accordance with the vibration you sustain within. Perhaps you have chased, pleaded, or struggled to be noticed, but that effort comes from blindness, from believing the reflection has power of its own. You stand before a mirror and beg the image to smile, not realizing that if you smile, it must follow. The outer person has no power to withhold love from you when you know yourself as the one who gives it. When you claim within, I am loved, I am wanted, I am chosen, you rewrite the script of the play, and every actor in it must assume their new lines. There is no need to persuade, to convince, or to fight for affection. All such actions spring from the belief in separation. The awakened dreamer knows that there is only one consciousness expressing as many. You are both the dreamer and the dream, the lover and the beloved. To change the behavior of another, you need not touch their body or alter their mind. You need only change the concept of yourself that you hold within your imagination. The outer must obey the inner, for it has no life apart from it. When you think of your specific person, what image rises in you? Do you see them as distant, unavailable, uninterested? Then you have clothed them in those qualities through your assumption. Stripped them of that garment. Dressed them instead in love, in tenderness, in devotion. See them as they would be if they adored you. And more importantly, feel yourself as the one who is adored. For it is not their image that transforms reality, but your sense of identity. The one who feels unloved will always meet rejection, but the one who feels cherished will meet devotion wherever they turn. Do not attempt to change another by force of will. It will only strengthen the illusion of division. Instead, return to the quiet chamber of your mind. There, In stillness, construct the scene that implies the wish fulfilled. See your specific person smiling, speaking with warmth, looking at you with recognition and affection. Let the feeling of that moment saturate your being until it feels natural. Then release it, confident that what you have accepted as true within must externalize itself without. You will notice that the world begins to shift subtly. Perhaps they send a message. Perhaps you meet them unexpectedly. Perhaps others treat you with new gentleness. These are not coincidences. They are the outer ripples of an inner change. The mirror has begun to respond. But do not become anxious for proof. The very desire for confirmation implies doubt. Rest in the assurance that consciousness never fails to reproduce its own nature. Even if appearances contradict your vision, stand firm. Remember, you are not reacting to people. You are reacting to your own assumptions mirrored back as people. When you cease to assign them the power to hurt or reject you, their power dissolves. They can only reflect your new belief that you are loved and worthy. The moment you truly feel this, the outer world bends to match it. Your specific person is the stage upon which you meet yourself. Through them, you learn the secret of creation, for in loving them rightly through imagination, rather than fear, you discover the infinite love that has always been your essence. When you realize this, the longing ends. You no longer wait for them to come. You know they already exist within you, inseparable, eternally one with your consciousness. And from that realization, love flows outward, drawing them inevitably into the form and expression of your inner vision. There comes a sacred moment when you must cease to imagine your desire as something to be reached and instead feel it as something already possessed. This is the law of inner union, the divine marriage between you and the state you long for. Until that union is formed within, no outer manifestation can appear. You cannot remain in the consciousness of longing and still expect fulfillment, for longing only perpetuates the absence of what you seek. You must inwardly unite with the feeling of already being loved, already being chosen, already being one with your specific person. This inner marriage is not achieved through effort or repetition. It is born through surrender. You lay aside every doubt, every question, every need to control, and you rest in the silence, knowing that the union already exists. When you close your eyes and imagine your specific person beside you, not as a distant dream, but as a living reality, you are entering that holy state. You feel the warmth of their presence, you hear their voice, and most of all, you feel the quiet certainty that it is done. That feeling of completion is the seal of creation. In this sacred union, there is no more asking. Asking implies separation, union implies fulfillment. The awakened dreamer knows that to pray is not to beg, but to assume. You assume the state of the answered prayer. You move as though it were already true. You no longer say, I will be loved, but rather, I am loved now. You no longer whisper, they will return, but they are with me now in consciousness. And that assumption, once felt as real, contains within it the power to manifest itself in the physical world. This is the mystery of all creation. Feeling is the secret bridge between the invisible and the visible. When two become one in imagination, you and your desire, you and your specific person, the result must be born into form. The outer world is but the delayed echo of Tha. T, inner union. Do not look for signs before you feel it. Feel it, and the signs will follow. The union within is the cause, and the reflection without is the effect. But so many hold themselves apart from what they desire by identifying with the state of lack. They say, I am waiting for them, not realizing that waiting is the declaration of absence. They say, I hope it happens, not seeing that hope is only faith diluted by doubt. To enter the law of inner union, you must abandon hope and rise into knowing. Knowing says it is already done. Hope says maybe one day. Which voice do you think the creative power obeys? Always the one you feel to be true. There is no greater act of faith than to live from the end, to persist in the inner conviction that the world already mirrors your fulfilled desire, even when appearances scream otherwise. This is not self-deception, it is divine recognition. For when you dwell in that feeling long enough, the outer must bow to the inner command. Circumstances, people, and even time itself rearrange in obedience to your assumption of completion. You may find as you practice this inner union that the need to chase or convince fades away. You begin to walk through life with quiet assurance, for you no longer look outward for confirmation. You have touched the unseen world where every possibility exists. Your specific person, your desired relationship, your perfect love all dwell there now, waiting only for your emotional acceptance. When you feel it real, you lift it out of the invisible and call it into being. To live by this law is to walk in harmony with the rhythm of creation. You cease to be divided within yourself. There is no longer the you who wants and the you who waits. There is only the you who already is. The inner union makes you whole. And when you are whole within, the outer world must show you wholeness. Love can then flow freely, for it is no longer burdened by fear or need. It becomes effortless, natural, inevitable. If you would manifest your specific person, make no attempt to reach them with words or gestures. Reach them through feeling. Feel yourself as one with them now. See the world through the eyes of fulfillment. Act, speak, and think from the consciousness of being loved, not from the state of seeking love. The law of inner union demands that you remain faithful to this invisible marriage until the world acknowledges it as fact. The moment you stand firm in that union, in that silent I am of completion, creation is finished. The world, obedient as always, must deliver the image that you have already conceived and claimed within. When the inner marriage is sealed, you naturally begin to move into that sacred doorway where imagination touches eternity, the awakened dream state. This is the state between wakefulness and sleep, where the mind grows still and the senses fall gently away. Here lies the secret chamber of creation, the place where the outer world is shaped by the impressions you read to feel as real. It is in this delicate borderland that the subconscious mind becomes most receptive, and whatever image you plant in that soil takes root and blossoms into fact. You have entered this state many times without realizing it, those quiet moments before drifting into sleep, when the body is heavy and the mind floats in sweet surrender. In that drowsy silence, you are no longer bound by the logic of the waking world. There, the heart speaks in symbols, and the imagination reigns unchallenged. The awakened dreamer does not rush through this passage, they linger, knowing that this is where the seed of reality is sown. If you desire to manifest your specific person, learn to use this threshold of consciousness deliberately. Each night, as you close your eyes, withdraw attention from the outer world. Let go of every image of distance, every thought of waiting. Breathe softly until the body grows still, and then begin to imagine the scene that implies your wish is fulfilled. Perhaps you are sitting beside your specific person, hearing their voice whisper words of love. Perhaps you feel their hand resting gently on yours. Whatever image carries the feeling of completion, enter it and let it saturate your being. Do not force the picture, let it unfold naturally. The goal is not to see with your physical eyes, but to feel with your inner senses. You will know when the scene is alive, because it will possess a richness that feels more vivid than the waking world. That feeling of aliveness is the creative act. When you sense the warmth of their presence and the joy of union as though it were happening now, you have impressed the subconscious mind. From that moment, creation is set in motion. Many try to visualize while the mind is tense or restless, but creation flows only from quiet faith. You cannot command the subconscious by willpower, you move it through feeling. The drowsy state is perfect because the conscious mind has loosened its grip. You have stepped into the workshop of the unseen, where imagination becomes law. As you drift in that stillness, say within yourself, not as a plea, but as a declaration, it is done. I am already one with the one I love. Let the feeling carry you into sleep, and you will rise renewed, for the seed has been planted in fertile ground. Some may ask, must I repeat this every night? I tell you, do it until the feeling becomes natural, until the imagined scene feels more familiar than the memory of separation. When the feeling becomes real, you will no longer desire to perform the act, it will feel complete. The subconscious requires no repeated instructions once it accepts an idea as true. The repetition is only to convince yourself that it is so. Once accepted, the subconscious takes over and weaves the circumstances that must unfold to externalize your vision. You may notice that as you practice this, the line between dream and waking begins to fade. You walk through the day with quiet confidence, sensing the unseen union already established. You no longer wait, you live in expectancy. You know that your outer world is only the delayed reflection of your inner assumption. People will begin to play their parts, often without knowing why. Events will arrange themselves in ways your rational mind could never design. Yet, to the awakened dreamer, it feels perfectly natural, for they have already lived the scene in imagination. The awakened dream state is not fantasy. It is divine realism. It is seeing beyond appearances to the truth that consciousness alone creates. When you learn to dwell in that stillness each night, you take command of your destiny. You cease to be tossed about by circumstance because you know that the cause of every event lies within the imaginal act you performed in silence. So, when you lie down tonight, do not carry with you the disappointments of the day. Leave behind the thoughts of absence, the fear of rejection, the worry of when and how. Instead, step into the secret chamber of creation. Feel what you desire as already true. Let that feeling lull you to sleep. And as you cross the threshold between waking and dreaming, know that the unseen world is listening, molding, shaping, arranging, making ready the form that matches your inner vision. For in that half-waking state, the awakened dreamer writes the script of tomorrow, and the world, obedient to imagination, must bring it to life. When you have sown the seed within the silence of that awakened dream, the next step is to live from the end, to carry through your waking hours the same certainty you felt in that sacred state. Living from the end does not mean pretending or acting as though something were true. It means inwardly knowing that it already is. You move, speak, and think as one who has received. You cease to ask when it will happen because to your inner being, it already has. The unseen act is complete, and life now simply unfolds a pattern of what has been accepted in consciousness. You must understand that imagination and reality are not two separate worlds. They are one continuous flow of creation. What you imagine with feeling becomes the seed, and what you experience outwardly is its harvest. Living from the end means remaining faithful to that invisible seed even when the soil of the world appears barren. You do not dig up the seed to check its progress. You nurture it with belief. You walk in quiet confidence, knowing that its roots are deep and its bloom inevitable. In every moment of the day, life will tempt you to fall back into the old state, to look at the shadow and call it substance. The person you love may seem distant. The world may show no sign of change, but that is only the echo of your former state still fading away. The awakened dreamer does not react to these appearances. They know that to react is to recreate the old state. Instead, they return again and again to the inner feeling of the wish fulfilled. They carry within themselves the calm joy of one who already possesses what the outer world has yet to reveal. When you live from the end, you no longer chase, plead, or question. You give thanks. Gratitude is the language of completion. You cannot be truly thankful for something that has not yet been received, so when you feel gratitude, you declare that it already is. Every thank you whispered in faith strengthens the bridge between the invisible and the visible. It is the vibration of fulfillment itself, a silent song that tells the universe, it is done. Consider what happens when you fall in love. The world itself seems to change color. You walk differently, your voice carries warmth, and everything appears charged with meaning. That shift in feeling does not come from the outer person, it comes from within you. Living from the end is living in that same awareness before the evidence appears. You become the one who is love. And because you are it, the world must reflect it. This is the secret of effortless manifestation. Effort belongs to those who believe they are separate from what they desire. The awakened dreamer knows that creation is finished, that every possible reality already exists. You simply align yourself with the version of you who already has what you desire. That version exists now, waiting for your recognition. When you choose to dwell in its feeling, the bridge of events is quietly formed, leading you inevitably to the outer reflection. It may come through a phone call, a meeting, a word spoken by chance, but these are only the means. The cause is always your inner assumption. Therefore, never concern yourself with the how. The how belongs to the unseen intelligence that animates all life. Your work is only to persist in the state of the wish fulfilled, to live as though the dream has already come to pass. You will notice that as you maintain this inner knowing, your reactions change. Things that once stirred anxiety or longing will no longer move you. You will find yourself calm where once you were restless, joyful where once you were desperate. That is the sure sign you are living from the end. For when the inner state changes, the outer world has no choice but to follow. And when the evidence finally appears, when your specific person stands before you, when their words echo the very phrases you once imagined, you will feel no surprise. It will seem the most natural thing in the world because you have already lived it 100 times in consciousness. You will understand that nothing new has happened. It was only the unseen made visible. You merely walked faithfully in the direction of your inner reality until the world caught up to your knowing. To live from the end, therefore, is to walk in mastery. You do not fight appearances, nor do you bow before them. You recognize them as the fading pictures of old assumptions. You turn instead to your inner vision, the living reality within, and dwell there until it feels more real than the world of senses. The outer must yield to it, for this is the eternal law. The world is yourself pushed out. What you accept as true within, life will inevitably mirror without. And when you finally grasp this, you will move through your days in peace, knowing that every desire, every dream, every love is already fulfilled in the unseen, waiting only for your steadfast faith to bring it forth. And yet, many struggle because they try to force the outer world to comply, while neglecting the inner world from which all things flow. They fight shadows and wonder why their efforts dissolve into dust. You must remember the outer world is nothing but the echo of your inner conversation. Change the words you whisper to yourself and you will find that the entire world rearranges itself to match that new inner tone. You are not a beggar before life, you are the author of it. Every scene, every event, every person playing their part in your story, they all spring from the drama rehearsed within your imagination. So guard your inner speech, for it is the creative script of your world. If you tell yourself that you are unloved, forgotten, or unworthy, you are commanding life to prove you right. But if you quietly affirm, I am loved beyond measure, chosen and remembered, then the law of consciousness will bring forth people and circumstances to bear witness to your declaration. The mirror cannot show a smiling face unless you first smile. The world cannot show you love unless you first embody it within. Do not think of the desire, think from it. Thinking of something keeps it at a distance. It says, I want it, but I don't have it. Thinking from it means entering the feeling of already being or having what you desire. You no longer imagine the fulfillment as something to come, you experience it now. You see the world through the eyes of the fulfilled one. You walk differently, breathe differently, speak differently, because you know the inner event has already taken place. That invisible act becomes the seed of destiny. This is why persistence is divine. The moment you assume a new state, everything not in harmony with that state begins to die away. But as it fades, it may seem to resist. Old habits, old conditions, and even old relationships may attempt to draw you back. Yet do not be deceived by appearances. That is merely the old self gasping for air. Remain faithful to your new state. Persist until it becomes the only reality you recognize. When the inner world stabilizes, the outer world must obey. You cannot serve two masters, the master of fear and the master of faith. If you dwell in doubt, you energize delay. But if you rest in assurance, you accelerate manifestation. The delay is not denial, it is simply the time required for the unseen pattern to crystallize into form. You do not plant a seed today and demand a harvest tomorrow. You trust the invisible process. You water it with belief and protect it with silence. When you refuse to entertain opposing ideas, you create the perfect condition for its growth. Many will say, but I have imagined and nothing has happened. My friend, creation is not about brief moments of imagination. It is about sustained awareness. It is not a single spark, but the steady flame that transforms the darkness. You must dwell in the feeling until it saturates you, until it becomes so natural that you no longer notice it. Then, effortlessly, the outer begins to shift. What seemed immovable begins to bend toward your new assumption. because consciousness alone is substance. The world you see is consciousness solidified. To alter it, you must alter your awareness. Every moment you are choosing either to accept the evidence of the senses or to believe in the unseen. Faith is not blindness, it is higher vision. It sees the invisible reality and calls it true until the world agrees. This is why the awakened dreamer lives as though surrounded by miracles, for they have learned that feeling is the secret, and imagination is the womb of all creation. When you awaken to this truth, you realize that there is no one to blame, nothing to fight, no power outside of your own consciousness. Everything that comes to you is drawn by the magnet of your inner state. If you wish to change another, change your conception of them. See them as already transformed, already loving, already kind. Speak to them inwardly as you would if they were what you wish them to be. The moment you do, a shift begins not in them first, but in you. And because the outer mirrors the inner, they too will eventually conform to the image you hold. And so the law remains eternally faithful. It does not fail, nor does it discriminate. It gives to every man according to his belief. You may use it consciously or unconsciously, but it is always working. The difference lies in awareness. To know that you are the cause of all phenomena is to step into true freedom. To live without that knowledge is to drift, blaming circumstance and calling it fate. The choice is always yours to live as the dreamer, unaware, tossed by appearances, or to awaken as the creator, shaping life from the silent certainty of imagination fulfilled. And when you finally choose the latter, when you begin to feel the reality of your wish as though it were already, so then all that has been waiting in the unseen rushes to meet you. The bridge of incidents unfolds with perfect precision. The people, the timing, the words, everything aligns effortlessly. It was never chance, never coincidence. It was always you, awakening to the truth that imagination creates reality, and that the world you see is but your own consciousness made visible. My friend, the journey we've taken together tonight is not about technique or ritual. It is about awakening to who you truly are. You have come to know that the awakened dream state is not a mystery reserved for mystics, but the living power within you, the creative imagination that shapes the very fabric of your reality. The love you seek, the person you desire, the life you wish to live, all are already contained within your consciousness, waiting only for your recognition. When you live from the end, when you feel, think, and move as though your desire were already fulfilled, you awaken from the sleep of separation and enter the divine dream of union. The outer world then becomes the mirror of your inner conviction. This is the secret of all creation. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled and live there in faith until it hardens into fact. So, tonight, walk as one who knows, speak as one who has already received, love as though the dream has already become real, because it has within the unseen realm where imagination and reality are one. Let faith, not fear, be your companion. Let inner peace, not outer evidence, be your guide. And remember always, the awakened dreamer does not chase love, they radiate it, and all that is theirs must return.